AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. Yeah, welcome everybody to our Ask Gun Questions show. Like the introduction said there, we answer gun questions. However, last couple of weeks we've been farting around and just doing other things. So, SHOT Show and other excuses. Let's get into some actual gun questions that have been coming up. I think I might be getting a call from Mary Ann or Carrie Ann. So I'm going to give Clover the first one. Can you see this? I'll show you the screen. Anyway, I got to go for just a second. I'll be right back. Hello?
Yeah, well, hopefully he gives me the screen here in a minute. Because other than that, I don't know what the gun question is. But if we do have one out there in the chat in the meantime, throw it out there. We'll talk about it. Waiting on Tony Simon from Diversity Shoot and 2A40 podcast. Hopefully jump in. He was over there with the, the Weekly Bullet, having a conversation, I think, with Paul and Dan. So, yeah, people call it sometimes in most inopportune time. That's happened sometimes. But the way that it goes, I don't know. I don't know what to vamp about. I know that we have not been paying attention to the database that collects all those questions, but over there, AskGunQuestions.com, you can put those questions in. And really looking forward to getting back to actually answering the questions that are on that. I know that a lot of folks out there like PNW Woods out there, for example, throws questions into that database fairly regularly. So really good resource to be able to go and check all that kind of stuff out. I'm wondering if I can go over there. I don't think I can see anything on Asking Questions, but I'm going to go over there and see what I can see from over there. Actually, I can't even get to it. That's weird. Probably not spelling it right. A typo in the URL, and there was. So questions, if I hit questions, I can't see any of the questions. Yeah, I don't see any. I don't see any of the questions. So apparently the questions can only be brought up, like downloaded through that spreadsheet, I guess. That's really weird. It collects the data and it does that. So yeah, no luck on that side of things, unfortunately. 1 second, because I'm still fighting a cold here. Oh, so PNW Woods has got one. He says it's messing with the internal parts of a gun. A good idea in general. In general, I would say no. In other words, general means there's no general, right? No specific reason that you're in there and messing with them. So yeah, I would say no. The more that you drive pins out, right, the more that you tighten and loosen screws, the more that you do that sort of thing. I mean, you're talking about wear. So just disassembling and assembling, let's say, a firearm, right? Just for the purposes of doing it, is creating. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say it's necessarily a negative, but it's creating excessive wear. Um, on some of the parts and stuff like that. So, you get an issue to where, you can get an issue where the pins, are worn or something like that, or the, pilot holes, the pins go in, things like that get worn. And then you talk about things being loose. If you go further with, in general, and you talk about messing with internal parts, like, if you're going in to specifically polish up the hammer and the sear, let's say, or something like that, that's cool. But you need to have a little bit of knowledge on what you're doing. is part of the problem with that, because a little polishing goes a long way. And you got to realize that on a lot of firearms out there, the margin for error, right? The precision with that um, is pretty great. So, a little goes a long way. And if you get in there and you start to, polish, even with like polishing compound and like a buffer wheel, on a Dremel, right? The abrasion level on that, not really super high. That's not taking off just a whole lot of metal. It's smoothing things down. It's not like a grinding wheel or a stone or, even sandpaper or terry cloth or anything like that. When you do get into more abrasive stuff with doing that, you got to be really, really careful. And another thing is even distribution. If you're talking about the polishing or sanding or cleaning, cleaning up in a way, that sort of stuff. And a lot of people don't realize that. And I'm speaking specifically to like hammers and sears here, but um, um, with triggers, hammers, and sears, I should say. And because that's the three main things when you're talking about a trigger job. And so, um, a lot of people they'll get in there and they'll polish or they'll stone or they'll do something and it's not even. Those surfaces are not even. They may be canted one way or another when they're stoning stuff, right? They're not true. They're not level. They're not flat, and then that can create all kinds of crazy issues. But yeah, my opinion is in general, no. I mean, if you don't have a reason, obviously, if when you first get it, I don't have a problem. Take it apart. Kind of figure out where everything goes, how everything works. I don't have an issue with that. And then as needed for cleaning or repair or maintenance or something like that, of course. But yeah, you don't want to be total stripped down and put back together every single time. Let's say you shoot that firearm or go to the range. Uh, just too much excessive wear. Um,
Okay, I'm back. Thanks for running it. So you've just been answering questions out from the live side?
yeah, I just hit the one on woods there, and then I don't know if we had anything else come up. I had to scroll down to look, but yeah, just that one from Woods is really all I hit on. So thanks for that, Woods. Appreciate it.
Just talked to Sisters in Arms, so that's good to go. We're going to go to this first one. It came in on the first day of the year. What's the name of a laser grip? Well, if it's cool, I guess. Did I catch you right in the ending?
You're not screen sharing at all, just so you know. I know you said you were going to, so
much difficult to see what I'm saying. But you done answering his question? I guess I should say.
Yeah, I'm good with the Woods there for sure.
Okay, so the first one from the list. That's what we're here to do today. Is actually address the
yeah.
list. Well, we also address live questions, so feel free to ask questions. We'll take at least the second half of the show to talk about live questions if we can. So, but we just want to dig into some of these that have come up since over a month now. So, what's the name of a laser grip I can put on a BBR 30 Rock Island Armory Compact 45 ACP? So, BBR 310 Rock Island Armory Compact 45 ACP describes the pistol. So, I'm guessing that's the model of it. And then this is the manufacturer. And then they're also describing it as a small gun in that caliber. Are you familiar with this one off the top of your head?
Give it to me one more time. BBR.
Bravo, Roger 310. BBR 310. So it looks like a little Commander. Is that the tiny one? Is that for real? So this is a little tiny 1911, and the reason you're not going to find any grips is because the grips are too small. Their grips are smaller, so the little screws are going to be way closer together, which means somebody has to make a custom grip for it, which means somebody's got to take an existing grip or maybe the dimensions from the gun, but probably an existing grip, and then take a pattern from it and then put it into CNC or something and then send that out. But really what it means is, look at this one. It's got some kind of pattern on it. So whatever anybody made to be their fancy grip has either some pattern or contour or something. And when you tell it, okay, now make it smaller, you can't necessarily just shrink that. Sometimes you can, and some people will just do that. But typically that means sitting down with the software, rolling up your sleeves, fiddling with it, and that means time and effort and time. So somebody's getting paid for that time, and you're just going to take some time, or you may never see grips for unstandard guns, or at least very few options. But that being said, I'm just assuming a bunch of stuff here. Do you know anything more about this one specifically? This little tiny 45 ACP?
I don't believe that one that suffers the fate of a lot of foreign produced, foreign manufactured, imported firearms in general, copycat, let's call them firearms. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that one is a non-standard grip pattern, and that's a pretty common issue, believe it or not. If you can find imported copycat firearms that utilize the same pattern grips as whatever they copycat, that's almost the exception versus the rule, and has been for quite some time. So yeah, even going with there are companies that do make the smaller compact, and I don't know 1911s enough to know. Somebody out there in the live chat, I'm sure, does. When you go from the officer to the officer, the commander, there's what, 3 different levels as you go down from size, and so that smallest one, there are companies that make the quote unquote standard design that would be like the standard Colt design or whatever, right? There are companies that make those, but again, I don't think I think they're going to be slightly different, and that's the aggravating thing when you get into those, is that they're slightly different. So if you get it, like, there's literally like tenths of an inch or something. Like, I mean, there's like just a very literally millimeters, right? I hate to get metric, but literally millimeters difference in between where the holes are located. And so sometimes you can elongate the holes, sometimes you can shave, sometimes you can do things and make other things fit. I've done that before. But yeah, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, but as far as I know, that's not a standard pattern grip. And that was the question, right? Was like, do they make grips for it?
Oh, I'm muted. No, actually, that's what I was thinking too. But they actually asked laser grip, so that makes it even more difficult.
Oh yeah, that's going to be
you got to find a laser company that wants to go to all that effort. And like you said, it's non-standard. So if it was non-standard and I think you just said like 10 other companies decided to use that same grip pattern, well then yeah, you might find that somebody makes a laser grip for it, but probably not Crimson Trace, which is probably the better of the longer lasting companies and stuff. So kind of depends too. If you want a laser grip for competition or playing around, that's one thing. If you want a laser grip for concealed carry or some kind of other use, like actual competition where it matters or something, you might want something a little more time on the clock. I'm distracted because I'm trying to make sure I sent. Did I sent Tony a link, right?
I know I got a link. So
yeah, okay. So I'm going to send him a link on Instagram just in case.
Yeah, it says it was also forwarded to Tony.
He just might be busy or whatever over there. So then the next question, if we've answered that one enough, is I have a mod and a full choke barrels that shoot very low. I tried them on 2 different model 50 Winchesters with the same results. I have other barrels that shoot well in these shotguns. What to do to fix these 2 barrels? So this is a single barrel shotgun, but she has a modified and a full choke. These are barrels, not screw-in chokes, I'm guessing. I tried them on 2 different model 50 Winchesters. So are you right off the top of your head, you know what a model 50 Winchester is?
Yeah.
I don't, so I'm looking at it. So this is some kind of auto shotgun, all right? And back in the day, you would just buy different barrels with different chokes in them, and then 2 of them shoot low. Well, obviously, somebody was sticking the barrel into a fence and using it to climb up over the fence too many times, and now their barrel shoots low. You gotta put it in the fence upside down and climb over, and you'll get it to shoot right again. I don't know. What do you think's making a shotgun shoot low with just a certain barrel? I mean, seriously, other than the barrel being bent, what could cause that? It's not like they seat differently, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, shotgun patterning is, that's a thing. And I mean, from barrel to barrel, it's going to be different.
I mean, technically you're right, but that's what I'm saying. It can be bent. You can get a barrel that's goofy, or I guess the
and they're saying it's shooting low. So I need more info, right? Because they're saying, okay, well, it's patterning low. Well, are you talking about it's patterning low at 10 yards, 20 yards, 50 yards? And what are you considering low, right? Like, just because it's patterning low does not mean Do what now?
It says very low, but that doesn't really help.
Yeah, very low. So I mean, it still doesn't necessarily mean anything. Um, you know, a lot of times, you know, when you're patterning a shotgun, I mean, if that barrel shoots left, right, high, low, you know, adjusting your mount, you know, the way you mount it can make, you know, can make a
The way you
difference.
shoulder it, the way that you bring it
Yeah.
up to your shoulder. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
one
I
gun
mean,
might have a different comb or something. So you're going to do that anyway. But
yeah,
I guess
and I
for
know
some
that
reason,
the 50s were available with a vent ribbed barrel, right? So here's the thing: are we talking a vent ribbed barrel? Are we talking one without a
yeah.
vent ribbed barrel? And if that is there a difference in the vent rib? Is one higher, one lower, or whatever? Because trap guns tend to have a, you know, something designed, a barrel, whatever designed for trap shooting, typically going to have a little higher rib, right? So I mean, you got those variables. If you're going from a vent rib to a non-vent rib, well, of course it's going to shoot higher, low
No,
because
but that could be a thing though. The vent rib. So what we're talking about is having a line of sight down the top of the barrel,
a,
like on this one,
a flat
essentially.
piece or rail, more or less. Yeah, is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
vent
and it's
rib.
not
Yeah,
to attach anything. It's just for a visual line. I mean, I guess it might also give rigidity to the thing, but it's really to give your eye a thing to go down that's in line with your eye and not
the
having to
visuals.
look down a curvy barrel or whatever,
Yep,
right?
a
And you
visual
can
straight line. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see it here in this picture if I zoom in. I don't know what I'm looking at, it's so small. But if I enhance this, like everyone should do when they go online and zoom in on pictures, you can literally see where the chamber is up here and then the barrel is narrower and the chamber needs to be thick for the expansion of gases. But as soon as the stuff starts moving, the pressure is much lower and the barrel can get much thinner. And as that happens, there's this taper, there's a slope there. And you can literally see how the vents have much bigger gap here than they do up here. And that's what it's for. So you got this straight line. Now this one has some goofy muzzle or something on it, or muzzle device on it. But basically what we're talking about is that comb, right? Or that thing. Well, like Clover's saying, a sport one is actually going to go up and it's going to ride really high for whatever reason. I don't know. Probably for some competitive reason, right? But like, here's a picture of 3 of them. This one might have one like glued to the top almost. Some of them are like this where they're up in the air. And if we saw a sport one somewhere, like a competition one, it's going to look like somebody put a ladder sideways on top of this thing. It's going to look goofy,
Almost. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. So if there's one that's made for trap and one that's made for skeet, just because you're using a shotgun, that's a different game. And it could be totally true that someone's going to use a different sight for trap versus skeet, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or a
Now,
barrel or whatever. So I think that might be what it is. Maybe there's an
Smeggy's commenting on filing down that front bead. I mean, you can change out the front bead, but here's the thing: people don't realize you point a shotgun, you don't aim a shotgun, right? So the bead is honestly irrelevant, except for just like a point of reference. When you're shooting shotgun, you shouldn't really be paying attention to that bead. You know, if you're mounted properly, where you're looking is where that shot should be going, right? And so, can you change out the bead? Beads are typically pretty easy. They're either silver soldered on, or there's some screw in type beads.
well, that's what I
Either
was going
way,
to say.
fairly easy to change the bead to put a bigger or smaller one on there. Um, but at the end of the day, you're talking about looking at the concept of shotgunning totally different than it was meant to be.
Well, okay, I hear what you're
That's my
saying,
opinion. But yeah,
but I think the bead is a good one because you could just file it down, but I would not do that first. And that's like last case scenario if you got nothing else to do and you like wasting money. But it is a possibility because of the way physics work. You could make the bead smaller. So I agree with what you're saying, Clover, but the bead is a reference point. It's something that you use. And when people think of quick shooting with a pistol or something, if you've ever used a big dot, excess big dot sight versus a regular night sight, it's a golf ball versus a ping pong ball, right? It's just a bigger dot. Some people love it because it gives them a quicker access, but some people hate it because it doesn't give them that accuracy. So there can be the same thing we talked about with the rib. It can be one of them has a really big sight, a real big bead on there, and another one might have a really small bead. But it could also be that it's a screw-in bead, and some people will screw theirs out quite a ways because of whatever reason they're shooting low or high or whatever, and then you could literally sometimes just adjust it. But I think I hear what you're saying, but I think that if you're using the top sight, the top of a big bead versus the bottom of a little bead, and you're not doing that consistently, that can throw your pattern all over the place, right? That little
Well,
bit, just because your reference is off.
yeah, and then also the question posed also throws two different types of chokes in the mix. And like, of course, two chokes are going to pattern differently, especially at the same distance. One is going to seemingly pattern lower or higher than the other just simply because of the constriction value.
And then an old choke and a new choke. I mean, it's possible to shoot a choke out, Goofy.
Very
right? Shoot
true.
a field
Yeah,
shot
wear
out
it.
of a choke.
Yeah. Yeah,
Tony, we're
absolutely.
talking about the question I have that somebody asked. I have a mod. Thanks for showing up, by the way. I know you just got off a show and we were waiting for a bit, and I'm like, well, he might be doing something, so we just started. But thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, cool, man.
Question is, I have a mod and a full choke barrel that shoot very low, or on a Model 50 Winchester, so an old shotgun, semi-auto shotgun. It's got two barrels that shoot low out of all the other barrels they've got, and all the other barrels shoot okay. How do you fix these two barrels? And that's what we've been going off. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that one.
I think both you had points, but one of the things Clover said is something people overlook all the time. Yeah, you don't aim a shotgun, you point a shotgun. So what are we talking about, what you're trying to achieve with this? What kind of accuracy are you really looking for? And the other thing is, yeah, if it's bad enough, you can work with the dot and move the dot. But yeah, I think you guys answered the question, but I just wanted to reiterate the thing about pointing versus aiming. I think a lot of people miss that.
And I've also seen barrels, not just shotgun barrels, but rifle barrels too, put into presses, very specific presses with very specific jigs, because you don't want to bend on a barrel unless you know what you're doing. But I do know a gunsmith that is very capable in this area of tweaking barrels a little bit, and it don't take much of a tweak, right? It's not like they're putting a 90-degree curve in a barrel or anything like that. It doesn't take much in the way of a little bit of a tweak, but it's not something that you want to get a hammer and put it in your vise at home and try to do, for sure. You want to make sure that that's a competent gunsmith that has the proper measuring tools and the proper jigs for the press to do that. And if it's a situation, they can also check it to see for run out and a lot of different things, that barrel, and see if it's actually gotten tweaked or bent a little bit. I mean, that could very well be the case, especially when we're talking about a very old, the Model 50s are not new ducks, so to speak. So, it's very possible that that's gotten thrown around or something's happened that's tweaked it just a little bit. And, maybe it needs to be tweaked back just a hair. It's possible.
So all that being said, I mean, even if that took an hour for a good gunsmith who's going to be able to do it, is that barrel even worth it? Are there enough, Model 50 barrels, or is this something that barrel's worth $100 on its?
Or is it really off enough to worry about? And like I said, you just realize that if you're shooting clays, you shoot the top of the clay instead of the butt of the clay, right? When you're shooting or the bird, right? You shoot above the bird instead of below, hold above instead of below, right? Your swing through, your trigger break, you just modify that to the pattern that shotgun's throwing, and you're good to go with that particular barrel. And maybe you have to mark the barrels so when you take it out. Oh, okay, well, I'm using this barrel, so I don't want to say point of aim, but your line of sight, I guess, is different. Your hold is the word. Your hold is different.
So my question, but then the two barrels, what will the other barrels hit at? This particular gun works. It's got the chamber and attachment magazine. Their magazine underneath here. So those 2 points of attachment attached to the gun, and assuming those are consistent, they're going to end up tweaking the barrel somewhere else besides those 2 points of attachment. So the other barrels that already work on the gun will still use that consistent attachment points, and they'll still shoot the same as they did. We're only talking about, like on this particular picture here, taking the barrels from this attachment point forward, somewhere in that section of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no worries. I just figured I'd illustrate, because sometimes when we're talking about stuff, we're sitting here thinking about taking the barrel off and how many times we've taken a barrel off a shotgun like this, and other people are going,
well,
that picture has one barrel pointed one way and one barrel pointed the other way, which is even the right way. You know what I mean? Like,
So
people might
yeah,
not get that.
and so here's something that people often don't think about, right? That for a barrel getting tweaked just a little bit, enough that you could notice a difference in pattern, is think about it. Shotgun barrels typically but because of the pressures involved with shotgun shells, are typically thin, very thin compared to rifles or handguns, right? The wall of the barrel, the wall thickness, right? So, take that thinner tube, which is basically what it is. It's not rifled or anything, right? And then lean that up in a corner against the barrel, like so many people do, right?
Yeah.
So what if that stays leaned up in a closet with humidity, with temperature
And a
fluctuations, with
duffel
everything
bag slams into it, or a
for
couch gets smashed into it.
decades, right? It's leaned up like that for decades. Could that be a problem? Now maybe the barrel was taken off. Like this particular individual sounds like he's got multiple barrels. Maybe they're not setting flat, and you're right. Maybe they're laying down, but there's something that's underneath one. And for years and years, something else, even moderate weight, has set on top of that barrel, right? Could that tweak it a little bit? I could see the potential for it. Sure.
Enough to be annoying, right? Enough to be shooting low type of thing. And
Well,
that
enough to
also
yeah.
lets you blame. Like, let's say you're out shooting and you don't win. You could be like, oh man, I'm pretty sure this
Right.
barrel had a duffel bag sitting on it.
Right. There you go.
as I'm looking at my 30-06 in the corner right now, leaning against the corner, I'm like,
Well, it's a little different though,
Well, a
right,
rifle's
Tony?
a little different. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, I
got a
know, but
little
it's just
thicker barrel.
it's just funny as I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, maybe I need to put this back in the case.
We all
Has
do
anybody
that.
ever taken like chewing gum back when it had aluminum around the chewing gum, and then you would take that to a ballpoint pen barrel, right? You'd like wrap the chewing gum tinfoil around a barrel of a pen. So now you have an aluminum foil tube. That's how they make 9mm barrels.
True
Be
story.
really careful with them.
Yeah.
You have to be really careful with them. All right, so for 1911 45 ACP, I have one with a 5-inch barrel and would like to put on a 7-inch barrel. What else would I need to get to do this swap? Is this type of swap possible? That's an interesting. Can you make a 1911 into a long slide? Because people have Glocks and stuff, and they can see that once you got a full-size Glock frame, it doesn't really matter what upper you put on it. The uppers will kind of all fit. But that's a Glock thing. That's not a 1911 thing. I'll let one of you guys give you the real answer on this one.
1911s are not Glocks, so they may need to be fitted. The barrel that you pick up from whatever barrel maker you get it from might need to be fitted. Some gunsmithing may need to be involved, and that's about all I got to say about that.
Yeah, you can't just have like a 2 inches of barrel stick out the slide on a 1911. You need a whole new slide and everything, right?
I didn't think so. I mean, do you?
I don't know, because of the way the barrel nut is and the way that it drops or whatever. Can you have just a big long barrel hanging out the front of 1911? I just don't see it that often, so that's why I don't know.
I never thought about that part. I mean, usually
you absolutely can have extra barrel out the front side. That's been a thing for
people just don't like the look, so they don't do it that way.
Without the slide, right? Just
without the slide. Yeah. I mean, I've seen them sticking out on things like Grizzlies, LAR Grizzlies. I saw them with the extra barrel length because they'd have like 7-inch barrels on them or something like that, but only like either a 5 or a 6-inch slide. So I just assumed that it was a drop in, but I know all 1911 parts aren't drop in. Because there's so many different manufacturers. There's mil spec, which with Springfield is just a name. It doesn't mean it's actually mil spec. And so it's not swap out parts because it is a 100-year-old design, and it's made by pretty much at this point dozens and dozens of manufacturers, and all may be different.
Dude, some of the nicest ones are Nighthawk, right? And their whole thing is one gun, one gunsmith. They start with your spec sheet, and then they start to create from a frame, like a raw frame, the gun you want out of it. So I'm assuming, that means honing and grinding every pin and every angle and everything. So you take a part out of that gun, it's not going to fit any other 1911. That's like some random chance or whatever. But those aren't interchangeable parts at that point. That's a fine-tuned, whatever you call that, like an instrument more than a. Well, that's weird. What happened here? Oh, Clover Tech.
Oh, I was just gonna say he should just go buy that one.
So what is that one?
I have no idea, but that's
Just a fake
definitely a long barrel. So.
Well, there was the AMT long
but
slide.
that's the slide and everything. That's what's crazy about that one. But yeah, that's from some Reddit thread, so I don't know. But I was like, that's to have the slide and everything. The sight radius is even huge on that. What is that? I don't even know. Like 10-inch, 15-inch.
Yeah, that'd be tough to have even a 45 like operate that one. If the slide is the whole thing, like that's a lot of metal to move.
Right.
That was probably something for bowling pin matches back in the day because you wanted that extra velocity and sight radius.
Right. That's true. And they would put a lot of oomph in there because they needed to knock the pin off. I just found a bowling pin thing. I was watching Smeggy out there was talking about Second Chance, a movie about the guy who invented Second Chance armor that's just came out in December or something. And
really?
was asking if anybody'd seen it. It's an interesting movie, he said. So he wanted to get some commentary on it. So I was looking up, if I could find it anywhere or find out things about it. And I found like the making of and some other stuff. But my one of my favorite channels is Johnny Roland's Shooting Show. He was a guy in Louisiana back in the 90s, and he did a satellite TV show, which everyone on YouTube is trying to be. Like, he literally did everything everybody on YouTube does, except he did it back in the 90s on satellite TV, and he's super cool. And now he's in Arizona. But somebody found all of his VHS tapes in a storage locker, gave them to some other guy, and that person put them on YouTube, digitized them all and put them on YouTube. So we have this invaluable, I don't know what it is, resource of all these 1990s glimpses into the shooting community. And he would go to SHOT Show. He talked to the guy who made the Medusa. Like, he's got all these super, super, super cool kernels of interesting gun history. And he has the 1986 Second Chance bowling pin shoot, like what would have been like a VHS produced video you could buy from the shoot, like after the shoot. And it's super cool. Like, I would highly recommend going and check it out. I put it in the weekly wrap-ups. There's a link to it in the weekly wrap-up, but you can find it. Just search for Second Chance 1986. And there's a couple of them out there. Super interesting to watch 1986 bowling pin shooters. Talk about a bunch of weird yahoos, man. Like, gun owners are tame and normal compared to back in the 80s, I'll tell you what.
Dude, if you want to see something, because I'm just pulling this up now, because, again, like every freaking sport, once you go down the rabbit hole of trying to improve that sport, you come up with weird stuff. And for the bowling pin matches, one of the things they came up with 357 maximum.
Yeah,
you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I have a couple of rounds in my collection. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude. How... We're talking like 158 grain jacketed hollow point doing 1,400 feet per second.
Is that what it was made for? I figured it was 100. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, the thing I saw was, or at least what I remember, was they developed it for bowling pin matches. Let me see.
It sounds like from watching that thing in 1986, which was 12 years in. They started it in 74. So 12 years in, they were 100% crazy weird, and they were definitely the kind of people that are developing new calibers and new tactics and new guns so that they can do better at bowling pin shooting. It was the way that, well, IDPA was already around, I guess, but it looks like the same way people attack 3-gun nowadays, like, or that tactical games. It's like that. Tactical games are kind of, okay, I understand it, but I'm going to stand over here and watch. Like, you guys are doing your own thing over there. That's sort of what this Second Chance thing is like. Yeah,
dude, you really, I mean, because I'm reading this from the Wikipedia entry, and I think it probably is something from one of the Chuck Hawks rabbit holes I fell down one day learning about the history of the 357 Maximum.
Nice.
But it's like, yeah, they lengthened the 357 Magnum case by like, what is that, 300ths of an inch?
I'll go get one. Keep talking about it. I'll go grab one.
Yeah, dude. So, yeah, they based it on that, and they set it up so it could be used either on heavier duty revolvers or on like the single shots, like Thompson Center. Thompson Center made the single shot pistols, and it was ridiculous levels of freaking It's like 40,000 pounds per square inch PSI. That's double. I think because a 45 ACP is like 20,000. So it's ridiculous levels of pressure for a handgun round. Like they would actually have a problem with flame cutting the revolver top straps because of the lighter weight bullets. So that's the kind of craziness they had back in the day. But the thing would hit with like, they have the energy levels here, 1,200 foot-pounds of energy. That is straight up. A 180 grain bullet right here at 1,500 foot-pounds. So stuff like this is actually, I guess they can use it for handgun hunting too. But when the 357 round was made, the president of Smith & Wesson run around North America hunting with the 357 Magnum, proving to people that it could be used for handgun hunting on anything that walked the earth. So really coming up with the 44 Magnum, he did the same thing with that in 1955. There you go.
Well,
So these are 38s, and then 357s are a little taller. This guy is for a contender, so it's like a shot shell on 357, but that's 357 maximum. So your standard 357 maximum.
That's insane.
well, with bowling pin matches too, you've got different setups. Right, all setups are not equal. Some of them will just line them up across the 2x4, or some type of sawhorse. Others are like I've seen anything from like a 2 foot by 6 foot board they're on, to 4x8 even sheet of board that they're on. And like you can imagine the 4x8 sheet, if those pins are usually set up on a 4x8 like a foot off of the front edge, right? So you've got 3 foot you got to knock that dude off going backwards.
This is the table. That's how this in 1986. That's how it works. So there's a table, like you say, whatever the dimensions are, but it's a sizable table. Here's a bowling pin. They even make fun because back in '86, everybody still hated 9mm. So they were like, we put the 9mm, we do the 9-pin one back here because the 9mm can only knock it over a foot. For the big calibers, we put it out here because half of it is you got to hit it. The other half of it is it's going to fall over and knock over other pins, but then they're all just sitting here, and now you got to knock them off the table.
Well, the key is if you can get it square, and there's a very small section on that bowling pin to hit it square. If you can hit it square, you can knock it off first shot. But yeah, if you tip it over, then you're really in trouble because you can hit it and all it does is spin. So it's a skill-based thing. You got to kind of know what to do. But yeah, you're right. For the lower power factor, they move the pins further back. So like for rimfire, the matches that I've participated in for like rim, because I do a lot of rimfire, they're a foot from the back is of the board on rimfire. So but that's still
9mm. Go watch that 1986 thing, and he goes, we got to put the 9mm back here because it can't knock things off.
Yeah, they put rimfire in the same spot. Yeah, that's what's funny.
Dang.
But
I hated 9mm back in the day.
But
awesome.
With rimfire, if you can catch the top of the pin, if you catch the head of the pin with rimfire, then you can flip it off, usually the back, because it's so close to the back. You know what I mean? It's a bowling pin is, I don't know, it's more than a foot tall, though, a bowling pin is. So, if you hit it on the top, a lot of times you can make it flip off the back with rimfire. And you kind of use the weight against its own weight against it. Yeah. You kind of use the weight of it against itself. Yeah.
But also, because, if we're going to talk about competitions, the other one was still silhouettes. And that would be still silhouette shoots, which would be like rams, pigs, that kind of thing. If you watch some of, what's his name? Hickok 45, those silhouette, I don't know if he still uses it because I haven't watched him for years, but those still silhouettes he uses on his home range, well, that's the kind of competition they had. You'd have to knock those over.
Yeah.
And sometimes you'd have snow and other things. They wouldn't go knock them down for you and make it easy. You still had to hit that with enough power to knock those targets over. And if I remember, again, this is going back to just reading about this, it would be like 100 yards or more with your handgun.
Yeah.
You'd have to knock these pins down.
Yeah, watching that thing again, that 86 bowling pin thing. Part of it is what we're talking about. Most of it was sitting there at the tables and knocking like 10 or 6 or I forget. They're just shooting revolvers in 1911. So they had like a capacity issue or whatever, and they'd have to reload. But anyhow, there was also all kinds of other matches. And some of them were like you're saying, where the steel targets are the shape of a bowling pin, but they're really far away, like 50 yards or 75 yards. And they're shooting them with 45s. So you couldn't shoot that with nothing less than 45 and knock over a steel target at distance. And they also had to, I don't think they were giving them any kind of power factors. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was more like, do whatever you got to do. But they were also winging hand grenades into buckets and close.
Right. Nice. Bowling pins are awesome targets, though, for anybody that's never shot at them. I mean, I highly recommend it. And most bowling alleys will give you their I usually kick in a few bucks, like a whole box. I don't know how many comes in a box of bowling pins, but when I pick them up, I'll usually give them like they would give them to me, but I usually give them like $10 or something for the box. Just
smart
for
move.
just for their time or whatever.
Bowling.
And they're more apt to save them for you too.
That's the thing. It depends on the bowling alley.
Yeah.
And you're going to find some that if there's no demand, then they're going to have them sitting there and they're going to keep them for a while. I worked at a bowling.
Or
they're going to keep them for a while, and then they're going to get sick of them, and they're going to say throw them away. Now, if they've got somebody who's shooting using them or something, they're going to know that person wants them, and they're just going to give them to that person. Now, if you go up there and they've got somebody that's already taken them, half the time they'll be like, yeah, sure, unless that person's paying them. But I would just say contact bowling alleys. If you're in an area where there's enough people around that the bowling alleys don't have any pins, just keep calling, and you'll find a bowling alley where they don't have somebody who's taking all the pins. And you might have to drive a ways, but you might come home with a car of them. On the other hand, I have a box of them still from those back in the day. I'm not a fan of bowling pins in the West, where you have your own property, you do what you want. When you go to a range and you're paying range dues, do whatever the range says. But for people that take them out to the desert and destroy them, fuck you. They're just leaving a lot of crap out there that doesn't need to be left out there. They make shooters look bad, and they just are assholes to the desert. So I'm not the biggest fan of skeet and that kind of stuff for out in the wildlands, let's say.
Yeah. The wood is not really a problem.
It's embedded plastic wood. It is not, any of it is not natural. They're all engineered at this point to be strategic, and there's like.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about them. Tangent. But the busted up ones that I've got that are just, thrown in a pile behind my backstop, those things grow mushrooms like crazy. I don't know what it is about them, but
interesting. Well, it's probably the type of wood.
The type of wood, and they soak up moisture well or something. I don't know. But, there's a lot of cool things you can do. I devised a game and built a rig for it one time with bowling pins that was interesting. I drilled through the top and put an eye hook, and it had a swivel. And then that was attached to a cable that was attached to a crossbar. And the goal was if you hit it square, it would flip the bowling pin around the cable, right? But you had to hit it square, because if you didn't, it would just spin or wobble or whatever. Yeah. And so the idea was to, how we used to throw swings around the crossbar of the swing set before? You know what I mean? The idea was the same thing, was to who could wrap it up the quickest, and there's a lot of cool little things you can do with bowling pins.
We use them for I don't know what you want to call, like practice or something, where you'd have your cardboard stands. Let's say you're using cardboard stands because you're trying to gauge accuracy or some kind of hit determinations or something, right? So you're using cardboard, but you also want to do other things. So you can put let's say a bowling pin, different colors in different places or something. You can spray paint bowling pins too. So you can say the yellow or red or something. So you can put bowling pins at the ground near your targets. So now you don't have to have fancy targets or nothing. You can take a couple of hits, and then if you're practicing with somebody or use a timer or some kind of a random thing, and now you'd take the shot towards the ground, and that would simulate somebody who went down, got their blood pressure back, and started getting back into the fight, and you still got to engage them at the ground, which isn't the same. The angles are not the same, and shooting bowling pins is enough of a difficulty and skill, and the angles and everything is really a mind fuck for people that think they're so good when they just shoot at a horizontal level at cardboard targets, and I've taken a step to the left and right, I'm dynamic. So shoot at something that's as easy as just dropping your angle down a hair, and then it's something that doesn't feel like knocking over unless you really hit it right. and that could be a great like 1, 2, 3, 4 drill or something.
Oh yeah.
Also Kingpin. So sorry. Next,
Right.
let's go to some real questions that have been coming in live. 500 Magnum asked, how many of y'all have experience with black powder guns? I've never shot one. I started shooting black powder guns when I was a little kid. They made us I had to go to Civil War. I don't think I've been to every Civil War battlefield, but I feel like I have. So I knew about them and I didn't like them. And then we had a ton of them. I had a lot of Civil War type of guns back when I was a kid. I don't think they were from the Civil War, but for whatever reason, my dad liked them. So I've shot a bunch of them and I don't like them. I never liked them. They kick way more than regular guns. They're a little fun until you have to clean them and own them, and then they're not fun anymore. Once I got older, I was like, oh, they're $5 or not $5, but maybe $15 or something. One time I got one, a little cap type or a percussion cap type, right? And it turns out I took that thing out just to play around with it because I bought it for like $15, and it was just a black powder percussion cap. Still got it. You buy percussion caps for nothing. You can get them at gun shows for $1 or something, and you get a big thing of them. So those are free. Gunpowder you can get from somebody who doesn't want it anymore, and as long as you only put in a little bit, you don't have to really measure it that hard. And then it turns out if you take a 7.62 by 39 spent case and put it in backwards into a 44 caliber cap and ball, it shoots awesome. And those are free. They're all over the place. So I used to bring out my cap and ball, my percussion Derringer all the time, and just shoot 7.62 by 39 cases at the targets whenever I got bored, because it's free, essentially. I would take whatever powder I could find from somebody who didn't want a thing of powder, and I have a 9mm shell because it's an anemic little tiny caliber. And I just took some wire around the rim, and you take a piece of wire, like a long coat hang, like a long paper clip or something, make it into a U, and then put the 9mm rim in there, and then just twist it, and now it makes like a little ladle. And you just stick that into your black powder, put that much into your black powder Derringer, put a cap on there, and you can shoot a 7.62 by 39 case like super accurately at distance. It's really fun.
Yeah, that's the only reason I have 40 S&W at this point. Is a 40 S&W case is the perfect load for me in my 36 caliber revolvers. Like that's the perfect amount.
It's like
of black
the perfect
powder.
scoop, right?
Yeah, the perfect scoop. Yeah.
Well, how many grains of powder do you use?
I have no idea. It's a 40.
I have no idea.
I was
Exactly.
I
Was because I got a 44. I use my 44 Remington New Army replica, obviously. But I never thought about that because I have a regular, loader thing that I use like 32 or 36 grains of black powder. I never actually thought about using empty shell casing from something. I mean, even though I keep it all together, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like I have to go scramble for it, but I'd love to have a backup in case the thing broke or anything like that I could just scoop in.
It's just a matter, Tony, of getting your load, whatever your charge, I should say, is, and figuring that out, and then finding something that fits in perfectly. That's all it really is. And that's what I did. Is I had it measured out in a little pan, and I reload. So I've got, and I'm a brass goblin anyway. So I just, put a bunch of different types of brass out there and dumped it in it until it's like, oh, it fits that one. Okay, cool. I'll just start using this.
Okay. Yeah. When I get, settled into a regular place.
Now, if you really want to get fancy, you can start doing paper load stuff to where you dump it all in a. You can do that with cigarette papers and stuff, but you know what I mean? Dump it in there, pre-charge it, and all you got to do literally is drop the one thing in there, ram it, and go,
We actually were putting together a class at one time, but just not enough people were interested. I think I told this before, because we want to set it up, one, to show people how much fun it is. Two, to let people know you don't have to register black powder firearms and you can purchase them through the mail. Excuse me, in most states, not New Jersey.
States. Yeah.
Yeah, in New Jersey, you can't. They treat it like a real firearm, but you can buy it in another state and bring it into Jersey. You don't have to actually register it. And the other thing that we're trying to let people know is if you are convicted of a felony, you can still use these as viable self-defense firearms. Or if you have, again, this is New Jersey thing, if you have somebody that's threatening to hurt you, like happened to Carol Baum here in Jersey, and she's waiting for her pistol purchase permit. And by law, they're supposed to let you know in 30 days whether you pass the background check. And you're on day 41 getting chased around your SUV by your ex-boyfriend who you have the restraining order against. Listen, it might not be perfect, but if Carol Baum would have had that 38 Navy, you know what I'm saying? She could have stopped this guy maybe from murdering her, or at least she wouldn't have been defenseless.
Right.
So this is an option. And I know a lot of gun people get their getting an uproar over, oh, you said felons. Bruh, if you got arrested for a bounce check charge when you were 18 and now you're 65 and your neighborhood's gone to crap and you want a way to protect yourself and you've been not been in trouble again since you were 18, why should you have your rights stripped away forever and that ability gone? So yeah, black powder gives you something.
Well, nowadays
to be able
air
to
guns
protect you.
too, right?
Air guns too, but I mean, if you compare the price,
Oh yeah, no
to
doubt.
yeah, you're gonna come out way ahead with the
And-
black powder thing.
And
an air
bang
gun
for the
is gonna
buck. I mean, people want to talk about, like, we talk about knockdown. We hear that all the time. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
you're going to get way more of that with black powder than you would with an air gun.
Most. I mean, we can always find exceptions for sure.
Yeah, obviously. But I mean, because we were trying to put that together, but we couldn't get enough interest to make it worthwhile for the instructor, which is my friend Dave, who was like actually an NRA black powder instructor, to actually get all of it, bring out enough guns to get dirty, because we're not just going to show revolvers. He has shotguns, he has rifles, and we were going to show how to use that in modern day, not only use, but self-defense.
Right.
And just not enough people.
Not self-defense necessarily, just in general. On a
Yeah,
scale
well,
of 1 to 10, hold on, I'm just asking a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, you made me think of something. On a scale of 1 to 10, no specific use or like need here, just for your own opinions. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best. How interested are you in a black powder double barrel Coach shotgun? Being I need to have one, 1 being I could care less, 5 being like, if you gave it to me for free, I'd take it.
Probably 8.
Yeah, I was thinking like 7.
Oh man! So anybody else out there can answer. Here's the best part of a black powder double barrel Coach style shotgun. It's not NFA, so it can go to any barrel length. So now you can make the tiniest little Coach gun and have so much fun with it. Like those things cost $700. I don't know what the hell. I wish I could get one of those for like $50 sometime, because that would be so fun to have as a black powder.
I have one that's cut to 12-inch.
Nice.
I want one that I can just cut to nothing. Like I can just have fun like my Derringers.
Let me caveat this by saying it is not. It is the one of the H&R that uses a percussion cap. It's a single.
Oh wait, you're talking
H&R.
12 inches altogether, or 12-inch barrels?
No, it's got a 12-inch barrel. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a little longer than I'm thinking, but I hear what you're saying. You didn't want to
no, you totally could. But my point is, I've also got one that's stock, but this one was already cut when I got it to like 18 or 16 or something, and I went ahead and cut it back to 12. And
we'll do a video on it because I want to see what 12 looks like. It might be crazy. It doesn't need to be that short.
What's fun about it is like jamming just whatever down in it. It's a shotgun.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Super fun. Yeah, it's like the funnest 4th of July thing, like just going on a picnic and making some noise. Like those are super fun.
Yeah.
But it's cost $700. At least every time I had the urge to go get one, I'd go source them, and $700 new, and I never found a used one. I think I found one used one ever, and it was like $500, and I couldn't afford it at the time. Otherwise, I would have. You'd make so much money on one of those if you made a channel with just playing with that shotgun.
Well, the thing that also you can use is one of the, what is it, Howdah? Is that it? Because I saw some of those, and those were used in India when they would go hunting on elephant, riding an elephant. They had these short barrel pistols that were actually used for if a tiger tried to attack or jump in the basket with you. It was a quick percussion cap, pretty much single or double barrel, so you could unload the face of a freaking tiger.
I kind of like the idea that if you're out there trying to shoot an elephant, some tiger might come up and kill you. That's kind of
Yeah, Howdah, Howdah pistol.
Yeah, but like G saying, those are in the $700-800 range typically.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it's out
Cool.
there and it's interesting.
Oh, they're cool.
I haven't thought about those in a long ass time, but I think I have seen that from something like you're saying from watching something about, because those are when you hunt from the back of an elephant too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're hunting from the back of an elephant, and the tiger's like, "Hey, look, Meals on Wheels," but an early version, it just goes for you. And I thought that was just really badass. That like you have the money to go to India to hunt elephant. Excuse me, hunt off an elephant's back, and the tiger still attacks you.
Mhm.
Not
Oh, I
like
thought
you
you were
have
saying
your.
they were hunting elephants. So
Oh no, you hunting
They're
off the
hunting-
back of elephants.
they're hunting like some kind of big crazy cow or something, I guess. Then people don't care about that. But I thought they were hunting elephants off of elephants. And I'm like, okay, get eaten by a tiger. I don't care.
Yeah, no, they're on the elephant's back hunting tigers. Because one of the things that people
tigers.
don't,
Well, then that's what you
Yeah.
get for hunting a tiger. There you go.
tigers hunt you back. Like that's one thing many people don't understand. Tigers and what is it, wolves? Like they're not stupid animals, so they will lead you down one way and
Any of the
backtrack.
big cats. Any of the big cats are.
Yeah.
You got to watch it.
So the bear, by the way, if you don't know.
At least,
So
like a bear's going to eat you. Like a cat would kill you and then just walk away because it doesn't feel like playing with you anymore.
yeah, right.
So
Slap you around, and leave.
I posted we're about hitting about the hour. We're going to probably go longer, but I figured it's a good time to bring up Tony's going to Tucson or Phoenix, I guess.
Phoenix,
Tony's
yeah.
going to Arizona. So we got our Second Amendment rally coming up on the 18th. So Arizona has the Arizona Citizens Defense League since 2002, I think, or 4, I forget, a long time ago. A couple of dudes from different states kind of were talking to each other. I don't know how they actually got together. I'll have to ask Charles sometime. But I know the origin story is they were sitting at a Waffle House. It might have been a different restaurant, but I like to say Waffle House. And I remember the road in Phoenix, at least. But I think it might have been a different restaurant. Anyway, they were eating breakfast together and thought to themselves, how come Arizona doesn't have better laws? We all came from different states and we assumed Arizona would have better laws. And it wasn't that Arizona laws were bad. It's just that they weren't free. They weren't awesome. So they got together and decided to create the Arizona Citizens Defense League. A few short years later, about 6 years later, we had constitutional carry in Arizona, the second state to do so after Vermont and Vermont doesn't count, so after Alaska, but the first state to do it modernly. And then, of course, other states took the lead. They made the Arizona Citizens Defense League off of the Virginia Citizens Defense League, an awesome organization. Other Citizens Defense Leagues have been created from that structure. So the Arizona Citizens Defense League has been a critical part of Arizona's infrastructure as far as being a good state for Second Amendment, or at least having the reputation for being a good state for Second Amendment. So one of the things that we've got now for the 10th year in a row is a Second Amendment rally. So this is actually put on by two organizations, the Riders USA, which is essentially motorcycle riders here in Arizona that took the lead of the Arizona Citizens Defense League, and Gun Freedom Radio, the people that do the podcast and they used to own the gun shop, and now they own Arizona Firearms Auctions, Cheryl Todd and Dan Todd, and they bring the rally to life each year. This year it's going to be pretty much bigger than ever, with a whole bunch of people speaking, and the event itself is a bit of a kind of a picnic for the Second Amendment, and a rally, and kind of it's not really a gun show. There's nothing like that there, but people do open carry. But there's food, and there's things to do. There's activities. There's organizations that show up and are there to offer information. I guess I should be screen sharing here. And this year, of course, it's dedicated to Dave Kopp, who passed last year, who was one of the founders and president of the Arizona Citizens Defense League, the lobbyist that did a lot of the actual work to get Arizona to where we are today. And Tony's coming out, so I'll let Tony take over. I just wanted to set the stage. This is our big rally. It's been going on for 10 years, and it's in the state where we take a lot of pride in this. So anyway, thanks, Tony, for showing up. What's the story on it?
Yeah, I think it was very important. I didn't even know who was coming to the event. Cheryl Todd reached out to me and was like, "Hey, would you like to come?" And I was like, yeah, sure. If you could, get me out there. So they're helping me with that, which is great, but I'm going to have to actually pay my way. So that's why I'm doing the SB Tactical raffle coming up tomorrow. I'm going to announce it. So we're going to have that. We're going to, ask for like $10 per entry. And I'm going to be giving away SB Tactical Brace. And it's just to help me raise the funds to get out to Arizona to be a part of this. I think it's really important that people in different states hear not only about how the fight's going in Arizona, but how the fight's going in our state, also to learn about it, also to try to motivate people to join these groups that maybe don't. So we have some awesome speakers. My friend Ursula is going to be out there, which I think is great. We're going to have a lot of different people that really believe in the Second Amendment fight. And I think it's important that people see the advocates that are doing the fighting. So this is also, I know last year it was, if not televised, but you could go to different people's feed and see it. I don't know if they're going to have one running like they do at GRPC, but you can find it. And
well, Paul did it last year, I thought, streamed it live.
Oh, he did? Okay, because I saw Ursula speak, and I can't remember how I saw Ursula speak.
Well, I know that Paul was hanging behind the camera. I assumed it was live from him, but they did have big cameras, like you're saying. It was either TV or the TV crew type of looking stuff. I mean, big cameras on tripods and elaborate. So it was being broadcast quality, recorded, if not broadcast. And it's bigger this year by far, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's something at that scale.
And I think it's important that you find out who are in the fight, because they got Rhonda Mary, they got Antonio Alcafort. So they have people I know that are going to be there, and I think it's going to be wonderful, man. I think they told me I have like 5 minutes, but I'm also working right now, coming up with a way to actually have a diversity shoot while I'm out there. So let's hope that comes through. Those emails go out this weekend, and hopefully I get answers by the beginning of the week so I can have things like a date and a location that we can work out. Because I'm trying to get out there to do the diversity shoot 1 or 2 days before or the next day on like the 19th or the 20th, that we can get people out there and participating in the diversity shoot. So please pay attention, and also come back by, check me out tomorrow on my Instagram, and of course Facebook at Simon Says Train, where I'm going to announce the SB Tactical Brace and how you can actually get in on the raffle and help me fundraise to fly out to Arizona for this 10th annual Second Amendment rally. I'd appreciate any help you guys can give me.
You've talked at different stuff before. Have you talked at a state rally before?
Yeah, I done it at Jersey 2 years. For 2 years, I've actually spoken at the state rally here, and can't wait to actually speak in Arizona and be a part of that.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting because me and Clover at least, talk a lot to people who are creating content, often on YouTube, but both of us are comfortable and interested to talk to people who are just creating content on the internet or just in general in 2023. But what we don't, at least I don't, and I don't know if Clover does, but I don't really end up, so I just don't have much experience with it, is talking to people about public speaking. And public speaking on the internet is not real, right? It's fake. Right. You can know more than anybody. But standing in front of a bunch of people, that takes like not just balls, but like an intent and a willingness that, well, no, not many people need to have, because not many people do it. But for the people that are contemplating it or just interested in it, or just to offer some more respect for the people that are doing it, because a lot of people are going to do it and maybe it's comfortable for them, so they don't even realize the tremendous appreciation other people have for the fact that they're able to just do it. So they're never going to talk about it because it doesn't seem like a big deal to them. So it'd be something interesting to chat about sometime, is how do you, because you're probably used to it at this point, but how do you prep yourself for that? Like,
dude,
what to chat about and stuff.
So I remember the first time, because it takes levels, right? I mean, it took me to level up. My first time speaking publicly was at the discussing one of the bills when they had the open forum for us to speak in the assembly, in New Jersey Assembly. And, I'd written a speech. I'd written it and rewrote it and tried to get the timing down to make it within the 3 minutes. And I went to speak, and I can't remember a word I said. I was so nervous. I mean, 100%. Other than I knew I said my name, I have no idea. And if you go to, my YouTube page, somebody actually recorded it. If they hadn't have done that, I could not have told you one word I said. That's how nervous I was. And then it just got easier the more I did it. And the first time I spoke at a Second Amendment rally was in Jersey in the middle of the winter. And I had my speech written on my phone. I had it written in docs on my phone, and I was just going to blow it up and be able to see it. Well, I'd broken my glasses like 2 days before. So I'm like, all right, I'll just make the print bigger because, again, I wrote a speech, and when you write one, you write it multiple times. At least I do. So I knew what it said. I didn't have to read every word. Well, it was so cold. I go up to start the speech, and the cold killed the phone. The battery just went dead. And this is my first time speaking in front of a crowd. Battery goes dead in the phone, so I just went ahead and ran with it and hit the highlights, and I did well. It was a good response, but pretty much it just right to the deep end of the pool immediately. And that made it easier because I had that kind of thing happen the very first time that I'm trying to speak in public to a crowd, that it made everything else just easier. So the next time it was like, okay, I know what I'm going to say. Get out there and speak and let the crowd dictate where this conversation goes. Because sometimes you don't get feedback from a crowd because a lot of stuff is going on. And there are conversations amongst themselves that people are having. And I don't know why you'd go to a rally and not shut the hell up and listen to the people speaking, but that's what people do. And they have their own conversations, mainly because, in my opinion, you don't see a lot of each other, like the gun advocates. You get to go to meetings every now and again, or you bump into each other at different places, but you don't see each other regularly. So when you get to something like an event, it's like old home week, and you really want to get to know what everybody's been up to or different things. But it's always interesting, and each crowd, each event has its own energy. And I think some of the worst things sometimes is you get right behind somebody that makes an awesome speech and you got to follow it up. I mean, can you imagine being the guy that had to come on stage after Martin Luther King Jr. made a I Have a Dream speech? It's like, thanks everybody. Enjoy the veal, tip your waitress, and walk off stage. Just don't even try.
Who actually did, or was there?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like you don't know who spoke before him, you don't know who spoke after him. It was like when your speech is that epic, it's like you just do what you can, man.
I gotta wonder too if the perception of speeches by the vast majority of people in a crowd. I gotta wonder, and even if you talk about the famous speeches, whether it be Gettysburg or I Have a Dream or whatever it might be, are they instantly recognizable as epic speeches, or is that something that history has proven over time? Right, like the people walk away going, "Oh, he knocked it out of the park! He knocked it out of the park!" Or they were like, "Yeah, that was a pretty good speech," and then later on they were going, "Oh man, that was epic."
That was back when he had everything was on every channel. So I think it was just like the moon landing. It was just everybody was immediately.
I think some. Yeah. I think some were, some weren't. Like again, they're going to give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time to keep people captive with nothing but words.
Yeah.
And
have you tried threatening them?
Yeah, threatening them and making promises that you can't,
and
go
then
follow
start backpedaling, and then start backpedaling
immediately. But I mean, that's. I think some people get caught up in that thing and like, oh, I have to speak. No, dude, make your point, state your point, get it out there. Hopefully, it hits, and you get a crowd reaction, and you keep it up, and you leave on a crescendo. At least that's what I hope I do when I make a speech. Like, you get it going. Sometimes depends on the energy of the person that spoke before you. you can feed off of it and get it going. And that's what I try to do. I can't put it on other people. Like if you go in with a pre-written speech, right? And you feel you're going to do a tempo with that speech. You're going to get people going. You're going to start here and you're going to ramp the energy level up and you're going to get them going and you're going to try to end on this like, yeah. And then the person in front of you ends on a yeah. Well, there's no reason for you to ramp it up. Like it's already up. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this energy flowing. Don't bring it back down to try to bring it up again because that might lose them.
Yeah.
You know, that everybody's cheering for this guy, and then you're going to bring the energy down. Everybody's going to go, you know what? When it's the first 30 seconds, it's time for a bathroom break. And everybody just roams off. So I think, at least in my mind, that's the pressure I put on me to make it worthwhile for people to have me out and to actually want to hear what I have to say. I want to make it entertaining, but I also don't want to just repeat the same thing the other 15 people are going to say all day. You know, so it's
So
yeah.
it's going to be held at literally in the lawn next to the Capitol. Now you're going to need to go in the day before and paint the wall black, but you paint the wall black and then you take the two pillars next to the stage and paint them red, and you get some Marines in dress black uniforms, wherever those came from, and a white hat, and they're going to stand there at attention with rifles, right? And then you get up there and you give the speech and just keep pounding the table and threaten, you know, a lot of threats. Their leader did that, and it was a pretty good speech. Very memorable.
A lot of phantom high fives too. Do that while you're up there.
Oh, okay. I got to keep all this in mind. Let me write this down. Now, do I say things like, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, or leave that one alone?
Bring hot sauce. This is Arizona.
Oh, well, luckily for me, I keep it in my purse.
There you go. There you go.
Oh my God, we're doing every kind of callback, huh? Political bullcrap. That's fun.
No, I do have some ideas for you though, because it is held at the what do you call the grass there around this thing, and like you say, there's going to be a bunch of people there to like show off, and a bunch of people there to kind of see what's up. So most of the speeches are given to the YouTube audience that came because they're interested, as opposed to the person who's there because why were all these people parked here and what's going on? You know, like that person.
Yeah, right.
And then somebody who's like, oh, I like to walk my dog here, and all these people are here today. What's going on? Like there's those people that are there. And then there's a bunch of people that are like, I got some issue and I'm going to go to this rally and I'm going to dress like this, and that'll show everybody what I think. And that's their reason for being there. Like there's at least 4 or 5 different types of people that show up, and some people think of it as cosplay, but you don't get like 8 people show up in almost boxed up uniform with each other that aren't trying to express something. So they're there, and they're there being part of, you know, liberty, which I believe is, you know, individual freedom together is liberty, right? When we all learn to be individually free amongst each other. And Tony, you got an opportunity to talk to those kind of people that are there, and they're open. Their ears are open. They're there. It's just that most of the time, everyone's getting talked right over to the Instagram or the YouTube audience. And I mean, that's kind of necessary, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to throw that out there. So we'll talk about here or whatever. But I think there's definitely ways that you can be different, set yourself apart from the typical speech. I mean, I guess I've been to 10 of these, so I know what the speeches are like.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, I'll take any help I can get, because I've been to, obviously, you know, the ones I actually spoke at, and I listen to what these guys say, and a lot of it, how do you say this? Because you don't want to really be insulting, but a lot of it is the same things said the same way by the same people that have the same thought process. So it's nothing new. It's a lot of echo chamber, but by the 15th person you've heard the echo chamber from, it kind of loses it. I think one of the more interesting things I saw at the November 2019 Washington 2A rally was when Kevin Dixie came up and spoke. He said the same thing, but a different way, with a different perspective. And I thought that caught a bunch of people. One, they didn't expect it. And 2, they agreed with it. but it just caught them off. Like, whoa, wait a minute, what? What do you mean by 1776 doesn't resound with everyone? And it's like, yeah, it doesn't. It's like we have to start talking to a different group of people. It can't be the same thing. And at that time, I was standing with a bunch of Black people who were either new to 2A advocacy or were already in it. And they were like, yeah, it's about time somebody pointed this out. Like, hey, bro, we're not all from the same perspective. We don't have the same perception of when freedom started. And I think it's important to have that pointed out. That we, to make this movement grow, we're going to have to be inclusive, and that's going to make some people feel threatened. And that's just the change that's going to have to happen to make this 2A movement more inclusive, but include the same rights. You just have to appeal to others differently. It doesn't mean that anything's going to be taken away. It means that it's actually going to grow and have new ideas and maybe grow in unpredictable ways, but more freedom and more people into giving freedom is not bad for anyone. Because the Second Amendment is not going to be saved by one race or one gender or one party. It's going to take us all. And I've said it before, and many of you agree with it, but it just needs to be said in a bigger venue.
I never noticed that these things are at such an angle, but I'm obviously looking at it from space, so I guess they are. So what Tony's talking about is the speech that KD, well, a bunch of us were at in DC in 19, right? And when you did that speech, what I had done, let me jump back. Will it jump back real quick? If I zoom back out, the speech was held here. This is the Capitol, and this is the steps of the Capitol. And then literally where this like thing is where y'all were standing. And then where these squares are is where a bunch of people were standing. So what I was doing was constantly kind of walking in a big circle here. And I would walk in amongst to kind of hear what people were saying. And then I'd come up here and say hey to people I knew up here. And then I would stand here a lot. And then I would come back over here. Being up here was interesting because the Capitol is always under some amount of disrepair or repair or whatever. But foreigners, people that are coming to the United States because of how awesome this country is, they will come up here and hang out. So all of this was happening as a public display on, in the open. But all these foreigners were coming up, so they would take their pictures and then look and listen, right? So people were also going to some sports thing was happening. Like this entire thing was all sports, right? So all these people were parked somewhere else and walking down these two walkways. I thought they were parallel. They were such a triangle. But anyway, they're walking down these walkways. So one of the times when everybody was talking, and I could hear because there was a loudspeaker here and I could hear all around here. So I could constantly hear what was happening. And there was people on the edges who were probably kind of more like a timid or whatever, or just didn't like to be out here because it wasn't a weather thing. And then there was most of the people out here. And there was a group of people who were trying to be like belligerent or something here. And then there was nobody who was anti, right? These were the people that are like, oh, you should have brought an AR-15. And I didn't bring an AR-15, but you should have brought an AR-15, right? But otherwise, it was mostly just people that were trying to support the whole thing. So I came out over here by this statue, and that's what I wanted to show you. Is I came out by this statue. I'm going to take the little Google dude and drop him on the statue. I don't know what this statue is, but you can pretty much climb up on here. So I climbed up onto this part so that I could look back at the thing and try to get some pictures. Now I have a camera, but essentially this is where I'm standing while KD is talking about the speech that you're talking about that I had already heard in Chicago at Gun Rights Policy Conference. So I knew what he was doing and how impactful his conversation about 1776 and 1926 is. So I'm listening. And this is everybody's going to sports. I don't know if we won the Super Bowl or
it was the Washington Nationals won the World Series. That's what it was.
So it was something big, and everybody was walking by in sports. And then there was this gun rally happening, right? And the gun rally was already there. Sports happened, so it wasn't planned. Look at this lady's got a duplicate. That's the Matrix, and only half a dog. But anyway, I'm sitting here on this statue, and all these sports people are walking by, listening to KD. By the time they get over here, they're having the conversation about what they heard.
Nice.
That was fucking cool, dude. KD's
Dude,
impact there was massive, dude. It was massive.
it was great because I'd seen it too, and when he started off, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good," because there were so many guys there with the flag and with the "Don't tread on me," and again, you have the mentality based on your perception, your perspective, and he was just gonna bring another one, and I'm like, some of these people ain't ready for this, and it's gonna be good, and it really was, and I think that needs to be more. And I was just glad to be a part of it, even if it was just in the crowd, because some people hadn't shown up, and I was in the bullpen ready to go up because some people didn't show. And Rob told me, if one more person doesn't show, Tony, you got to go up and say a speech. I was like, all right, cool way to find out you might be speaking at the freaking Second Amendment rally, right? It's like, yeah, you want to go up and speak at a national rally with no speech and no preparation? I got this. And all that came from actually being in more speeches and being able to pull this off. So yeah, I thought it was awesome, and I was glad to be a part of it. It was really cool seeing you and a lot of other people from as far away as Hawaii actually showed up at that event. And I got to meet a lot of folks, and it was really a good day. Like everything worked. The weather worked. It was prior to 2020 and a bunch of ridiculousness. So there was no real fear of anybody coming into the rally who wasn't supposed to be there and like instigating stuff. Because I remember there was one guy who had a bunch of
lady. There was a lady that was weird. I got a video of this being weird, but it was like an impromptu, like I'm going to just be weird because I figured out what they're talking about.
Oh, and there was a guy that was walking around with 2 flags sticking in his backpack, and he tried to have a mask on. He had one of the neck gaiters, and pretty much the crowd turned around and was like, pull the mask off or get out.
Yeah, this was like back before all of that stuff. And this was
Yeah, he showed up at that trying to cover his face, and they were like, pull the mask or get out. We're not having whatever you were up to. If you can't show your face, get out of here. And no, people, that's shut up. That is a problem if we're here as Pro 2A people and someone comes in who none of us know with his face covered in 2019, pre-COVID.
With a message that was contrary to the rest of the messaging that was going on there.
Yeah, that too. He had, so that was unacceptable.
An instigator or an agent provocateur, and either way, there was very little of that. There was people that threatened it, but that's some of the issues that we have to get over. Again, liberty is individual freedom together, and if you can't figure that out, then that's not the case, because we've always been able to figure that out since a whole bunch of colonists came over here from a bunch of different religions and everything else, and originally started building stuff and got those first guns together that made us what we are. We've always been able to figure out how to get along together. They try to look at the extreme examples where we can't, or we don't, or we didn't, and suggest that that's the norm when it isn't. We all get along all the fucking time, pretty much universally. So mostly it's just awakening. Mostly it's just awareness, and mostly messaging and information is what solves this, because the people play on unawareness. I was just going to add that since I think he's out there, was Barbecue out there? That there was Alan Anker made us the 2A rally flag, and I brought it up and gave it to him, and they put it on the whatever the speakers thing at the rally.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool.
And then I gave that to Barbecue, or he won it or something. So Barbecue, I'm pretty sure Barbecue has the flag that was at that rally.
That's freaking cool. Like I made a speech in Trenton, and it was after the big one in the wintertime. So this one was in the summer when everybody said we should, it was in the spring when everyone said we should have had it. Because again, the first one, it was 20 degrees out. So this one, it was really nice. It was in the upper 60s. Sun was shining. Very few people were there. And some of the guys that had a table there actually had a table at the rally, and they had rebel flags, hanging and flying. And some people told me I shouldn't speak there because of who's there. And I'm like, I'm from the South. I'm from Virginia. everywhere I went, from the races at South Boston Speedway to even school events, people had rebel flags. You know what I'm saying? The rebel flags from the parking lot. Just because somebody has that up, you still don't know what their mentality is. Stop assuming. You know what I mean? Stop assuming what people are because you saw this thing. I'm like, bro, I grew up on Dukes of Hazzard like everybody else, before you tried to make it political. So I went there and I spoke about freedom and freedom for all Americans and how important it is for all of us to fight for this right. And you know where the clapping and cheering started? Over there at that table with the rebel flags up. Not because people were looking. Man, if you're in Jersey and you're flying a rebel flag openly, you don't give two damns what anybody says. You're going to do what you do. So it wasn't that. And then they went over and they actually shook my hand and thanked me for coming to the event. So just don't make assumptions, dude, and allow people to split Americans up over some perceived bullcrap. Because they're going to try to divide us no matter what. And it's up to you as an individual to judge people individually. Now, if they were acting like flaming a-holes, that would be totally different. And more than likely, in a rally of gun people, they would have been asked to leave. Or at least that's what I've seen. When you act like a jerk, somebody's going to say something to you. And more than one.
I got to cut it because we need to be able to talk off air today. It's an important day to talk off air. So hopefully both of you guys got a couple of minutes to still talk off air. So everybody else is going to get the brunt of that. But the good side of it is on the other side. What we're going to talk about is going to have much positive consequences. So thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to rapid fire these last ones. Will you be doing more Saturday Night Special videos? I'm assuming that's towards me. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing stuff like that over on Rumble. So you can take them apart and fiddle with them and whatnot, assuming I have some time. So Patreon is always cool. We have a scroll at the bottom of the screen. If you like to subscribe to me or Clover or Tony, check out our Patreons and make it possible for us to make it a no-brainer. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow because I got nothing else to do. That would be great. But yeah, I'd like to do Saturday Night Special stuff at some point just to update my stuff and refresh my memory. And then my goal is to take my collection and either give it to the J.M. Davis collection or something similar, but probably the J.M. Davis collection because I think they might accept it. Their display of the Saturday Night Special, Ring of Fire Saturday Night Specials is poor, and I'd like to create a display and give that to them so they could replace they just have it in no order. It's not that it's poor, it's just like all their other guns, just here they are. They're not even alphabetical. They're just like, I don't know why they're in the order they are, but I could give it to them in a display where they make sense in the family tree and the relationships between them. That's what I would like to do with them. So yeah, whenever I do that, I'd love to make a documentary of the video of all that as I get rid of them. But again, not priority. How do you load black powder the same as a regular gun? I'll give that one to Clover. He's getting paid and he's not even saying nothing. How do you load a black powder gun the same as a regular gun? I don't know. How do you want to answer that one? Is he still there?
Oh, all right. I'll pretend to be him.
Okay.
Well, what you do is you follow the directions on the side of the box. No,
that's not even close, dude. Come on. You sound more like me if you just talk normal, dude. You know that. I don't understand the question. Like, of course you don't load it like a regular gun. That's black powder. You know, the black powder / muzzle loader a lot of times is what you'll hear them referred to as well. Now there are black powder cartridge things out there. That's a whole different ball of wax. We won't get into that. But when most people say black powder, they're talking about a muzzle loader, which means everything has to be loaded from the muzzle end, which means you jam your powder down, you know, the wad, if you have something, the ball or the projectile or whatever. And then you have an ignition source, whether that's, flintlock making a spark or, percussion cap making a spark or whatever. So, yeah, not even close to loaded the same way. Now, if you're getting into the cartridge, that just means that there's black powder in the cartridge as opposed to modern smokeless powder in the cartridge. And the two are not, I repeat, not interchangeable.
But that's a great answer to the question because that's the actual answer and the perceived the reason they're asking the question. So it's a great, thanks for bringing that, for hitting that. Woods is asking, I was thinking all the times I've seen people buy guns and mess with the internals because of YouTube said so. You know, I think that was back when we were talking about. You guys talking about modifying internals or something? So I don't know. If
Yeah, that was back to the original question when you had to bail for a minute. Yeah.
So,
About generally, is it a good idea to be tweaking around with the internals on the gun? Like,
okay.
generally speaking,
barbecue. Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys hate this one.
oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. But
That's the
yeah,
rally.
so
Oh, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, dude. You said you wanted to kind of bounce out of
No.
this a little bit early.
Yeah, I was just saying. Then that's the rally we just talked about. I had that one in there, and then DJ. I think I pinned this earlier. Your GoFundMe, which is it's already started or it's starting tomorrow.
Oh, we're gonna do this. It's gonna start tomorrow. I'm gonna make the video today and kick it off like 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I really want to get it out there, and I'll probably do a live tomorrow. Also, I'm going up to the Great American Outdoor Show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So I'm gonna film it today, so I can kick it off tomorrow. You know, film it with some light because at like 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna be driving up to PA because it's like a 4-hour trip for me one way, 4 or 5 hours. So I want to be on the road. I might do a live on the road. And you know how I do, you know, go into a rant that I can't help myself. I'll try to start off logically and then I'll probably get upset over some ridiculous infringement on our rights and go into a 15-minute rant.
I don't know. Some of those have been actually all of them have been pretty good podcasts. So.
Yeah, I mean, at least they're passionate. They're not planned at all. I'm going, hey, I'll make a 3-minute video where I'll hit some cogent points and get off and continue my drive and listen to somebody else's podcast. 15 minutes and 35 curse words later, I'm still going and I have to calm myself down. So that could
your
happen.
commentary is often like topical, but because you're paying attention over time, it's like topical from a perspective as opposed to topical and just repeating the headline, right? Because often either people have no interest in doing anything else besides talk about the headline again, or you know, the headline's up and they heard somebody else talk about it, but you're often doing more of an editorial about the interrelation or like the evolution of it, or you know, on a big scale. So it's not like you're just talking about the headline. And I guess what I'm saying is then people that listen to your show over time disappeared off the internet here, get a different kind of more depth from your podcast than just watching, let's say, the headline talkers.
Yeah, because I feel like guys like you that have multiple shows can talk about the things that pop up on a daily basis. And I think guys do a good job of it. But when you get a little bit of a, what is it, a 10,000 foot view or something, because a little time is expanded, a little time has gone by, and you can see overall like what's happening in the long run, like some of the court cases that we have. If you're talking about it every week, it's one thing, but if you talk about it, this is what's going on and this is how it's ended, I think that's cool too. I think there's room for it all because I enjoy it all, you know, from one to the other. So I don't know. I hope I'm contributing something and I hope people enjoy it. That's
well, you've kind of mentioned what you got coming up, but if you want to add anything else to that, feel free, and then Clover, take it away, and then we'll wrap it up.
all right. Yep. The dates are coming up soon. I have to get emails to all the ranges here. I'm still 100% working with NRA ILA to do a tour, a multi-state tour at the end of May. So please follow that. I'm also going to try to do some fundraising. We were kicking ideas around out there, especially about a t-shirt that's going to have all the dates on it that'll help us do what we're doing. I'm trying to work with NSSF. The NSSF maybe will help us get some of this touring on and help support some of the work we do. So yeah, 2023, I'm going to be traveling a lot. That's also where I'm trying to lose weight, get in better shape because going to be busy. And it also helps if you're smaller for the airplane seats because I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling. So that's what I'm working on. please support. Please follow me on Instagram at Simon Says Train, Facebook at Simon Says Train, and the second is for everyone on Facebook. I'm also second for everyone on Twitter, or just type in Tony Simon to find my beautiful face. And support us through diversityshoot.com and other ways. We'll be showing like a Cash App and PayPal. And what's the third one? Cash App, PayPal, and there's some other means too.
Venmo.
Yeah, Venmo. Venmo is the other one that I have accounts with if you really want to support the work we do. And I'm going to try to have a steady stream of raffles and giveaways and of cool stuff. I put together SHOT Show packets that's going to have a bunch of stuff from this SHOT Show: patches, bags, stickers. I even have the magazines that came out for SHOT Show every day. So I'm going to have sets of those actually all put in one package and give away to people. So that's some of the stuff I tried to make worthwhile while I was at SHOT, to be able to include people who didn't go, but at least you can get a lot of the swag. So that's what I'm doing. And again, thanks for listening to this and having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for joining each week. Clover, what do you got coming up?
Nothing really major in the immediate. Been scheduling out guests for the early 23 podcast season. So that should be starting to drop toward the middle of this month. So that's all I've got.
Oh, crap. I forgot there's a new thing on StreamYard, and I forgot to fiddle with it. Let me try to fiddle with it. Edit your name. You can make, like, I can give you a job description or some shit, it said. You know where to do that? Did you guys get that? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Show headlines. No, wait. Oh, no, I can do that too. Display names. Oh, wait. Headlines is something. Oh, wait.
I already have one from Gizzard's chat last night. See?
Wait.
If it ain't Bud, then it ain't right.
Oh, I see. So that's what happens when you go to, where do I put it for Tony then? Go in here and change his name. Oh, headline. Now I see it. So can Tony change his own headline?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't even check it out. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, the individual user has control. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna get rid of that. So then, yeah, so now I can leave that on, and then I guess you can fiddle with different ways to make the bubble look. Whatever. They just told me the other day when I logged on that you can do this. So anyway, I wanted to fiddle with it while I was live because that's professional. All right, so thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and we're going to talk about some juicy topics off here. Next, I don't think G23 is doing a show because of his vacuum quit sucking. So hopefully he's getting a better suck going with that. But I do know that if I were to look over here, Suicide Prevention Saturday goes live in 5 hours. That's a weekly look at suicide prevention and mental health awareness to have better conversations and more productive conversations with people that might need help, with people on our side who don't understand that people who seek that option are being, those deaths are being used against gun owners on a regular basis, but also the antis who may not even realize that a lot of their arguments depend on the deaths of those people. And instead of actually addressing the root causes of that and creating, campaigns and awareness to prevent that, they're often just duped into hating people's property. And it's a massive waste and it's a massive distraction. So thank you to Brooke and to DJ who helps with that. But she offers a brief, consistent focus on suicide prevention each week. Anyway, we're going to end it here. Thanks everybody for watching. Did anybody even pay attention to what's going on at the bottom of the screen? So, I got like a zillion patches at SHOT Show. I have this deal going. Smeggy's had it open. I kept linking it all over the place. Nobody wants to take advantage of this. I'm going to run a commercial for our store. Oh, you know what I should also do, I guess, is mention the DC Project is so good. So here's a link to the DC Project since we're in here. But I'm going to take you over to our Indiegogo. I forgot to mention that I'm trying to buy a new robot off of Owl and Anchor. Owl and Anchor is the people that made the flag for the 2A rally in Washington, D.C. back in 2019 that Barbecue has. And they have this fancy robot that can make patches and hats and whatnot. So I want to buy that off of them. My problem is I don't have any money. So we're doing a crowdfunding campaign. I need 140 people to jump on board. If you're interested, jump on board. Let's get a robot together. And if you're not able or interested, I'm going to ask you to help share the project, because all we need to do is find 140 people on this planet that think it would be cool for me to have a robot that can knock out patches at an industrial level. And then I'll start doing that. So if you're interested, here's the campaign. Here's a link to it. If you're interested in getting an education on how crowdfunding projects work, this is my 37th project on Indiegogo. I think it shows this to everybody, but if you hover over it, we've raised almost $80,000 over the years for different 2A projects. And I always make this entire back end over here open to people who are Second Amendment activists that want to learn how to use the internet effectively to fund your campaigns, to do your projects in ways that can pay for themselves. So our projects aren't always successful, but we always learn from them. And again, if you're interested in learning that kind of stuff, get with me and Clover on Tuesdays. Get with us, but please share the campaign. And if you can, throw $50 at it. We've already unlocked a patch. I'll be drawing a patch this weekend of the puppies, and that patch will be going out to everybody who participates in it. And then, of course, whatever I can start pumping out of the machine, you'll get some of the first samples of that as well. All right, with that, we're ending. Oh, wait, did anybody ever come over here? We got 2 people. So I guess with all that, I was going to run a commercial for the gear website. So I'll run that commercial. And again, that'll encourage people to buy stuff off the store if you want. And that'll also give you it'll give you 26 seconds to type in the hashtag and be part of today's giveaway. All right, so thanks to Foss for making that intro, or my store plug there. That's awesome. And thanks to others who have made some before in the past. I was going to say, I need to get something from Clover and from Tony, so when we end the show, I can run everybody's outros. We do have, what happened? We should have more than, get rid of the apostrophe there, Mike. It matters in this one, so we'll wait for Mike to throw that up without the apostrophe, and then we'll have 3 people. Nobody else wanted to participate. This will be for essentially a handful of patches from SHOT Show. There we go. So now we have 3. I'm going to hit the draw rings button, and it will be, what's it going to be? It is going to be, it's a good thing he put it in there, because Mike White just grabbed another handful of patches from SHOT Show.